We're now a multi-billion-dollar industry, wholesaling. And I think if we want to preserve and protect that industry in the future, maybe it's not right here at our door right now. I feel like it is, but in the next 5 years or so, where is our industry going to be if we don't start doing some things today to improve on this?
You know, the wholesale industry has come under maybe a little bit of fire over the past, call it many years, countless years, but I think it's heating up right now. And first, tell us the problem.
Yeah.
Then tell us why you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And then tell us where we're going, because I think everyone would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm very concerned about the future of wholesaling in that we're getting a lot of scrutiny and a lot of negative attention in the industry right now. And this has been going on for some time, but especially over the last couple of years. And we're seeing now, because of that, we're seeing legislation being passed in states and cities that are regulating wholesaling. And it's not, when I say wholesaling, it's specifically the assignment technique. And so that technique of, you get the contract, you assign it to your cash buyer, has really come under a lot of fire with not just the real estate commissions, but the consumer protection agencies. And there's an idea out there that wholesalers are predatory, they're stealing equity, they're doing harm to sellers. And sure, some of that is happening, just like every industry has bad apples. But the problem is that's getting the limelight. It's getting showcased as this is all wholesalers fall under this bracket, which you and I and everybody listening to this knows that's not true. We actually tremendously benefit and help the market and sellers.
Yeah.
And so I don't like this negative image that we're being portrayed as. The challenge is we're a completely unregulated industry, meaning everyone just runs around and does their own thing. Everybody does a little bit differently. Everybody's using different, there's no uniformity going on in the industry.
There's no set contract. There's no disclosure. There's no nothing. Everyone does their own thing.
We're lacking some things as an industry, like best practices and a code of ethics. And people don't have to participate in any of that, but I feel like we're now a multi-billion-dollar industry, wholesaling. Right?
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I think if we want to preserve and protect that industry in the future, maybe it's not right here at our door right now. I feel like it is, but in the next 5 years or so, where is our industry going to be if we don't start doing some things today to improve on this?
Yeah, and I think part of that, Jerry, is I think there's a low barrier to entry as a wholesaler, right? So we understand that. And the problem is there's a few bad apples that are spoiling for everyone. And I'm maybe paraphrasing, but the goal is to create that code of ethics so that those bad apples understand that their way of doing business is unacceptable to us, the industry.
Yeah, what I think would be helpful is if we can organize and create a trade organization. Every big industry has one. We've started a wholesaler association. It's in its infancy. We're not even collecting dues, or we're still building, the bylaws and the board of directors. But the idea would be, let's create some best practices. Let's have a code of ethics. Maybe we put through some certification where someone can go through and say, okay, well, here's the proper way to put a contract together with a seller where I'm not harming the seller, where I'm doing proper disclosure. Like, let's do things that are going to show the regulators and the consumer protection agencies that we're trying to operate, we're trying to self-regulate, we're trying to be a legit industry and not just a bunch of cowboys running around doing who knows what, which is what they're very concerned about. They're very concerned about.
There's some concern there. I mean, the consumer can be harmed materially due to some bad practices.
Sure. There's wholesalers locking up 40 contracts and close on one. Meanwhile, the seller's in the driveway with his U-Haul.
Right.
Like, that's not cool.
Right. With no intention of selling it. And they're like, hey, we're no closing today.
Yeah.
And
there's a handful of things that we could do right now that would drastically improve the way we operate as an industry. We can improve the way we interact with sellers. Right now the real estate commissions and the protection agencies, one of their biggest complaints is disclosure, especially real estate commission. Licensing law has a real issue with improper disclosure. So when a wholesaler says, I'm a cash buyer, I'll buy your house for cash, when in reality they're not, and they have no intention, they're going to assign it to another cash buyer, that's being looked at as illegal and fraudulent. It's lying. And it's not hard to get around that. Just say to this, what I say right in my contract, and I verbally talk about it with the sellers, I say, listen, I may assign this contract to one of my other entities, to one of my partners or investors, or one of their entities. And my intent here is to make a profit. You understand that, seller? I'm I'm buying your property to make a profit.
Sure.
My goal is to make a profit. And so I'm just open. I disclose it. You
because
don't have to
what
hide around
happens
that.
though when you say that though, Jerry? See, I think the intimidation from the wholesaler is when they tell somebody they're going to make a profit, they think that the reaction is like, "You're going to make a profit on my house
At my expense.
Yeah, well, but they get it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
most of the consumers are like, "Yeah, we figured that out. You're not here to for charity."
This is what the anti-wholesalers don't understand. The reason why a seller is selling that property at a discount is because of the convenience we're providing them.
Right, and their situation calls for some type of trade. We're going to exchange time and convenience for money. We understand that.
Yeah.
And disclosing that is not a bad thing.
And this idea of stealing equity just is not true. The equity is in the potential of that property. At the price that wholesalers acquiring that property, that's about the value of that house. There is not really much equity because it's distressed.
For sure.
The equity is when someone comes in and does something with that property.
Yeah,
and
like
proves it.
like your property in Arizona, when you bought it for $600,000, it was probably worth $600,000. And now you put $1 million into it, and now it's worth
3.2. Yeah,
I love
but
that.
that doesn't just happen overnight. That's a 2-year labor of love to get to where I'm going to
right.
make my profit.
Yeah.